Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you guys on this 2013 KTM how to service the swing arm pivot bearings. On my last ride I noticed there was a little clunking going on from the rear end, and I knew it wasn't my wheel bearings, and I'd recently serviced the PDS Heim joint, so I knew it wasn't that. So it turned out to be the swing arm. I had some side-to-side play in it, so like time for some bearings. So you just want to kind of strip everything off, clean it. I like to keep stuff clean. I know my buddies will give me a hard time about that, but anyway, take all your little side covers off and whatever. Get down to where you can get to the pivot bolt. If there's dirt in there, you're going to blow that out. And it's 19 millimeter, at least on this model. It's probably the same for pretty much all the KTM PDS bikes. And then it can be kind of seized up. Mine wasn't too bad. I've seen them like really seized up. But use something soft to drift it out. I used a copper rod. You can use a wood dowel or aluminum or whatever. And don't knock it all the way out at first, but get it loose, and then take your bottom shock bolt loose. That's also, well, at least on this one, is also a 19 millimeter. Easy peasy. And then, go ahead and take that opportunity while you got it off to get everything clean, especially up underneath where you never really get to clean it very well. And it's also a good time to clean all your chain guide stuff, because that can get really nasty depending on what kind of lube you use. On this one, the little rubber pads are pretty much deteriorated, so I'm going to go ahead and stick some new ones on there. A little acetone to make sure it's nice and clean to stick it good. And that's the pivot bolt. This one was pretty crusty. I bought this bike used, and I hadn't serviced this yet. It's got, I don't know if the guy before ever serviced it or not. Probably not, just by looking at it and how the bearings wore out, but had to use a little Scotch-Brite. Anyway, and then so here's like a super common problem with all the PDS bikes, maybe others too, but that mud flap just grinds into the swing arm and onto that pivot boss. So I'm just gonna, I know aluminum's a little difficult to weld, and cast aluminum is like notoriously terrible to weld, but I'm gonna give it a shot here and just try to put some filler in there to give that mud flap something to rub against for the next couple 100 hours, and get some more life out of this thing. It was probably getting close to cutting all the way through on this one spot. This bike's got around, 400 and something hours on it now. For that spherical bearing boss, I didn't want to weld directly to that with a big bead, so I made this little, I guess you could call it a wear tab or something, and I'm just going to tack it on in one spot, and I think it'll probably stay there a good long time. Anyway, that serves the purpose and gives that thing some new life in that area. All right, so let's take these pivot bearings out. So it's multiple pieces here. These things on the end, right on the end of that bushing sleeve, we call that a bucket. There's the other bucket, so on each side of the sleeve there's a bucket. And then there's a seal. And there's a seal. And this being the drive side, there's going to be one more piece in here. And it's called a stop disc. There's that one. And there's one on each side of just the drive side bearings. We'll show that later when I put it back together. Now, if you've got a press, which I do, you can just press the bearings out. But I wanted to show a different way, because most people don't have a press, is just get a long bolt or a piece of all thread, and you can kind of rig up some sockets and washers and whatever, and it just push the bearings out. So you have to be a little creative here if you're just grabbing stuff from around the shop, but the idea is pretty simple. Now on this spherical joint, like I said, I'd already serviced that not too long ago, so I'm just going to pack some more grease back in here, and that's going to be all I'm going to do to that, because it is still nice and tight. That's usually the thing that goes bad with these PDS systems, but like I said, I'd already taken care of that. All right, so I got this kit from Tusk. It covered a broad range of PDS bikes, and that's Husky and whatever comes with them. And it had every single piece matched up one for one there. And it came with an extra little set of seals, which I guess were maybe for some other bike, that everything's the same except for those seals. So I just put those to the side. I'm greasing the bearings before I pop them in. I guess you don't really have to. You could grease them later. In fact, I do grease them even more later, but I just wanted to go ahead and put some in there. And here I'm still going to use the little simple all-thread trick with some washers and backer plate. You just want to find a washer that will fit inside the counter bore part of the swing arm casting, but stop, and so you don't push the bearing too far. You'll see that later too. You just want to snug it down until it stops. You don't have to kill it. Just want that bearing flush with the bottom of that counter bore. And you're going to push each bearing in. There's 4 bearings total, 2 on each side. You want to push them in from the outside ones from the outside and the inside ones from the inside. They actually won't touch each other. There should be a gap between them. There again, just kind of switch the rig around the other way and snug it down. You want to make sure your washer's not grabbing the outer part of the casting. It fits in the counter bore, and bottom it out. So here you can see a good look at the just its flush, just the outside of the bearing to the bottom of that counter bore on the inside and the outside, and then there's a gap between each bearing. All right, and then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side, on the non-drive side. Pulling in the outboard bearing just till it stops. No need to use a whole lot of force there. It should slide in firmly, but not too hard. If it's too hard, you might have it a little sideways. You need to check it. You don't want to do this stuff with a press right here. You need to be able to feel this. All right. Inboard bearing installed. Okay, now to these little stop discs. You can see it's number 12. And it only goes on the drive side, one on the outboard, one on the inboard. And it goes in between the bearing and the seal. And the seals, I just tap them in. I mean, I guess you could put the all thread and pull them down, but this is just quick and easy. Tap it until it stops. All right, and there's the stop disc and the seal. And notice this is still just on the drive side. Here I'm just using an extension on my socket so I can get a straight drive at it. This is a little tiny dead blow hammer. You don't need anything massive to do any of this. It should all be nice and easy. This is aluminum. It's soft. You can mess it up if you're not careful. All right, now I am packing the ever-living daylights out of this thing with grease. And it's not that it needs that much grease to operate. You're just trying to keep any pocket where water could get in there full of grease. You don't want any home for water to hang out in there. So just put too much grease in it, and then what it doesn't fit will squeeze out. But you basically want the thing just absolutely packed with grease so water can't get in there. That's what kills your bearings. All right, slid that bushing sleeve in. Now it's time for the new bushing sleeve buckets. Pop those in, one on each side. It's got a little pocket in it, or a bucket that fits right over the sleeve. All right, I'll put a zip tie on that side to keep it all together while I'm working on the non-drive side. You see here, I'm just putting a seal in. There's no stop disc on this side. Just bottom out the seals, and that's it. All right. Again, we're just going to pack that thing full of grease as much as it can stand, and then some. It'll last a lot longer this way. There's no place for water to go. Put the bushing sleeve in. Got lots of extra grease. Like I said, it'll come out what doesn't get used. All right, put the bucket on, the inboard bucket on, and that's it. I cut that zip tie off, and it's ready to go on the bike. Have your pivot bolt ready, a little bit of grease on it. You don't need to put a whole lot because it'll just scrape off. Now, there's a flat spot you'll see on the head of the pivot bolt, and there's a notch in the frame that thing slides into. So make sure you've got those lined up. There's a flat in the frame and a flat on the pivot bolt, because if you don't, it won't be poking out far enough on the other side. Let's get that in, and then line your shock up. Get your lower shock bolt in. And then get your torque wrench. Manual says 80 Newton meters for the shock bolt. That's top and bottom. And then the swing arm pivot bolt is 100 Newton meters. Click that guy off. I was bumping on it here. You can't see, but that thing is tight as a drum now. No play whatsoever. And throw the bike back together, and she's ready to rip. Tight, tight, tight.